Midnight is just around the corner. We got beta live now. We got all kinds of midnight goodies coming for us. And probably in a couple months here, we'll actually be playing the expansion. Well, with alpha testing wrapping up and beta now on live, the best DPS specs are becoming more clear. Here we go. The best DPS specs for all classes in WoW Midnight from the Comeback Kids. Let's check this one out.
Okay, after nearly a month of testing all the DPS specs in the alpha, in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the best DPS specs for all classes in Midnight so far. It's also very important to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is not based off of damage numbers. This is how the class is feeling after the pruning.
Oh, okay, the best feeling classes.
And how their new Apex talents, which is brand new in Midnight, affect them overall. Also, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to stick around until the end of the video to see how you can earn a free Epic Edition of World of Warcraft Midnight from the Comeback Kids. Okay, I've been messing around with this strategy game called Heroes of History. It's basically a civilization builder mixed with hero progression. Ooh. So instead of just tapping the screen endlessly non-stop like crazy, you're expanding the city, you're upgrading technology, recruiting historical
heroes, got some great hair.
And clearing out territories over time. You build, you gather, you unlock new areas, and you see your city visually evolve. It really scratches that same itch that I love to get with strategy games, man. And I don't need to invest hours to be able to get my entertainment out of this game. The hero system's also really fun. I pulled Leonidas early on, and right now he's pretty much carrying my team while I have a bunch of ranged attackers fight from the back. You start with simple fights like boars, barbarians, then it ramps up into these big multi-unit battles and boss encounters. It's one of those games you check in during your downtime. You make progression,
Leonidas,
and your
tonight we died in hell.
Civilization grows. It's perfect for when you just want to sit back, relax, and decompress. The more you build, the stronger your lineup will get, the more territory you control. It's satisfying watching your entire civilization scale over time. Right now, I got Leonidas, like I said, but I'm looking to expand and grab maybe Achilles or even maybe Hercules to help him out in battle. Because, I mean, come on, who's going to really stop Hercules, Leonidas, and Achilles all in one fight? It's
the Greeks got some cool lore, man.
If you guys want to jump in and try it, use the link below and the code START-NOW. That unlocks your first
They had a great patch of lore back in the day.
Way faster, so you can jump in and have some fun with the game. Scan the QR code on screen, join in, let me know what you guys think. It's your city, at your pace. Thanks to Heroes of History for sponsoring today's video. Okay, first up, just when you think Demonology can't get any better, they just refine it and sharpen the edges and continue to grow to be one of the better specs throughout the Midnight Alpha. It really feels like your demons are...
Am I tripping, or does it feel like Demonology always starts like with a ton of hype? I feel like the last like 3 or 4 expansions, we see these videos, and we've been watching these kinds of things, and it's always like, Demonology's about to pump. And like then about 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the expansion, Blizzard nerfs Demonology into the ground, and then it never shows up again the rest of the expansion. But it always starts out like super strong, like way OP, and then it's gone. I just feel like that is a typical Demonology trope.
A lot more impactful in this
Not wrong, yeah, then it dies off. Yeah.
And the best part about it is that it's not a chore to track them, manage them, and get them all out like it was before.
Demo's pretty good. I think Demo is right now. We were just looking at the charts earlier this morning. I think it is the best Warlock spec right now in terms of damage output. So it's had a decent comeback, but I just feel like it's always so hyped at the start of an expansion.
The current moment with the demonic calling talent, which is brand new, your Dreadstalkers are now an instant cast and cost no shards. Not only that, they also summon your Vile Fiends, so in just one global cooldown, you get most of your pets out up and running, and it feels amazing. They also reverted imps to how they worked previously in the War Within, where they have a set number of bolt casts, and you summon your pets to then empower your demonic tyrant again, like before. I'm really glad they kept that gameplay style.
Demonology has cool animations.
Demonic tyrant based on how many pets you have out. I thought it added a nice little layer of gameplay. Additionally, when it comes to your tyrant, there's also a brand new talent called Antoran Armament, where your demonic tyrant now fights up close in melee range. They have a bunch of armor on, and he hits everyone with cleave attacks, which of course is going to be great for Mythic Plus, but just...
Does he hold aggro? That's the question. If he holds aggro, this could work like a hunter pet. I mean, that would make you guys Demonology Warlocks like the ultimate questers. Right? You could run that prey system and everything. Is Demonology... Look, is Demonology... Hold on. I just want to refresh myself on this one, because I'm not sure where it currently stands. Destro Warlock is #1. Yes, you are right. Delves, you are right. Once you said it, I was like, wait, I think he's actually right. Demonology is actually fucking shit right now. It's down here. Yeah, so not having the best time. Yeah, so that fits my trope, right? I said it. I was like, yeah, Demonology always starts out strong, finishes weak. That's where it currently is. I guess it's doing all right now, but it's at the bottom of the charts.
Thematically. Lastly, a couple of the big changes is that Doom is coming back and it's being attached to Demon Bolts, but this time when it expires, it explodes for AoE rather than it just being single targets. And then lastly, another big one is that Doomguard is getting reworked. Now, it is going to be another pet that you summon, but the kicker is that it's on a 2-minute cooldown. So when you summon it, he'll shoot out a bunch of AoE Doombolt volleys that deal pretty good damage. Listen, I'm loving this new iteration of Demonology. It still has that, you know, pet commander vibe, but it takes not even close to as much ramp-up time as before. It's a lot more straightforward and linear, but it still has that depth of gameplay that's going to separate the men from the boys. You press 3 to 4 globals, and you have all of your pets and cooldowns ready to rock and roll, and things feel really smooth. Loving Demonology so far, and Warlock in general looks like they're in a really great spot. Moving up next, now that we got some more updates, we can finally talk about Arms Warrior. Now, from an overall gameplay perspective, in my opinion, Midnight World of Warcraft has made Arms Warrior feel like an Arms Warrior again. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, your attacks are a little bit slower, but they're very chunky and meaty. The rotation isn't too complex like usual for Arms, but it's deep enough to where there's important decision making to be made. Also, Colossus Smash is now an AoE damaging ability that affects everyone in the area now.
Is Arms Warrior one of the ones that's losing Thunder? Was it Thunderclap? We were talking about it the other day that they were going to lose it. I wonder if that's still happening or not, because that's just such a big like warrior thing. I would say it matters more for Prot Warrior as an AoE ability that used to be used for like, you know, tanking purposes. But they're going to lose it, aren't they? Yeah, it's so weird. Warriors without Thunderclap's going to be weird.
They gave them back Avatar, which they took away briefly for some reason. And then now Deep Wounds isn't tied to their mastery, and it deals pretty good damage now. Overall, I would say my favorite aspect is that you have almost permanent uptime on sweeping strikes. Previously, there would be downtimes where, you know, you would press sweeping strikes, you would fit as many attacks in there as once, and then, you know, you would have a time period where you didn't have anything. Now, with the new Broad Strokes talent, you will get sweeping strikes every time you use Colossus Smash. And if you combine that with all of the other ways you're reducing the cooldown of Colossus Smash, you're using it very often, which means you, therefore, have almost permanent sweeping strikes uptime and a lot of good uptime on that Colossus Smash debuff. We also got to test out the latest Apex talent integration for Arms, where when you overpower, occasionally it'll turn your next slam into Heroic Strike, which gives you a stacking buff for armor penetration, mortal strike, and cleave damage, and then when you use it, it will then reduce the cooldown of Colossus Smash by a really good amount. So I think,
nice interplay
it's probably the perfect fit for Arms Warrior when it comes to an Apex talent. It mixes it up rotationally, you add some cool effects, and a nice little calling card on the old ability that Arms Warriors used to love, which was Heroic Strike, which I thought was neat. Colossus, I would say, is still going to be the go-to option for Mythic Plus, and then Slayer is going to be the go-to for Raid. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have that be the case for Arm Warrior. I was really surprised on how well and fluid the spec feels so far. I'm really, really happy about Arms, and one of the bigger things is for their utility, they got a nice buff to Rallying Cry to where it increases by its effectiveness by 50% when you're not in a raiding environment. So for Mythic Plus, they got some improvements. I think Arms is on its way. Overall, really happy about this spec DPS-wise.
Also, I mean, this is a DPS video, so it's not talking about tanking, but Prot Warrior has been in a really good spot towards the end of this expansion. So if it holds strong and through all the changes that happen, I mean, Warrior is going to be in a good spot for DPS and tanking.
Moving on next, I would say when we're talking about a spec that is just ahead in the pack, plain and simple, it's Enhancement Shaman. In my opinion, and this is the best version of Enhancement Shaman that we have seen.
Enhancement Shaman's another one that had like its time in the meta for a little while during this expansion and then fell off. So you know, I'd like to see. I liked it when Enhancement was good because, you know, it's nice to bring an Enhancement Shaman because he's enhancing you, right? He's going to up your own numbers, which always feels great. So I like it when Enhancement's good. I like to bring them along, and they kind of fell off for a little while now. So it's good to see they might be coming back for Midnight.
In a very, very long time. You really get that elemental totemic warrior feel where your abilities just feel a lot more impactful rather than everything feeling like a bunch of fillers. This spec honestly just used to be just a proc slot machine where every like second or two you would get another proc. It would change up your rotation. The talent tree was a mess. But man, the pruning in terms of Midnight and the talent tree redesign has done wonders for Enhancement Shaman, and I could not be happier than with where the spec is at right now. Your Storm Strike and Lava Lash abilities hit substantially harder, and they feel a lot more weighted compared to the past. There's still a clear cut.
Nice. Yeah, I see you guys talk about beta. Like, one good thing about beta right now is you're going to be able to go in and test these classes. You see how they play and everything. My plan for beta is not really to get into Blood DK. I kind of want to just take up my class and play it through the real expansion when it goes live. My whole thing with the beta is I'm just going to have fun with it and play a Harnier, because I'm not going to do that in retail. I'm not going to sit and make some hot LV troll chick and then run around in retail and actually do that. So I'm going to do it on beta. I'm just going to play through the Harnier campaign as a Harnier druid and see what that's all about, since that's the new thing that I won't do when the game actually goes live. That's how I play beta. I do shit that I'm not going to do. It's like for Dragonflight beta, I played a Drakthir, and I never played one in retail. I just wanted to see what it was all about.
Lightning and fire-based
Seb, you are the
builds,
beta.
whether
True.
you go, Stormbringer or Totemic, both of them are very, very fun. And then some of the bigger changes are that Feral Spirits are no longer a cooldown. They're baked into a talent that can cause them to activate passively through Doom Winds.
You guys will be able to test out everything he's talking about here.
Ride the Lightning is a brand new passive that causes Storm Strike and Lava Lash to, cast Chain Lightning passively, which is pretty cool, especially when you're playing the Stormbringer build and you're just spamming Storm Strike.
You're going to have to unlock it first. I don't know if that's true. Beta. Yesterday, Blizzard dropped a news article about what you'll be able to do in beta, and they said create a Harnier is a testable feature. I highly doubt they're going to lock a testable feature that they said is like going to be something you could do behind a lock. If they do, I'll unlock it, whatever, but that just seems silly.
Like over and over, so that's cool. And then their hero talent trees, speaking of those,
I didn't
really
think you'd have to unlock
up,
it in
which
beta.
is nice. In terms of a brand new button, they got Voltaic Ablaze as an enhancement shaman ability as well, which was previously just for elemental, which is an AoE explosive flame shock cast whenever you want, and that can also tie to some other passives to deal more damage. And then lastly, for major changes, the Sundering and Primordial Storm kind of got baked into a 1-2 punch combo ability. Really, really fun stuff. I gotta say, my God, I don't think there's anything they need to do at this point when it comes to Enhancement Shaman. I don't really need to talk too much about this spec because everything is pretty much golden. And if you want my honest opinion, this spec is ready for launch day. You can launch it tomorrow, and this spec can be on its way. Moving on next, when it comes to the Rogue, guys, I gotta say, a big surprise, man. Outlaw feels like it is in the best spot for Rogue right now. Now, It is worth mentioning that I don't think Rogue is doing the best design-wise for Midnight, but
when did they get that animation? That's like a Reaper from Overwatch, the way they're just shooting the guns everywhere. I actually think Outlaw Rogue is one of the cooler, aesthetic themes for the Rogue class. I just think it's cool, like the whole shotgun, pistol, rapier style of play.
But there are some positives we gotta talk about. Firstly, the class fantasy for Outlaw Rogue, it is heading in a great direction. I love the whole pirate, trickster, scoundrel thing they got going on.
Too.
And with the design and animations of everything happening, they have a lot of different ways to dive into that fantasy and, cheat your way into getting the upper hand in combat, which is really cool. They reworked Between the Eyes to give you a flat 6% damage buff for a certain amount of time whenever you cast it. So you're trying to go with these windows of, putting a lot of Between the Eyes in small little windows and gaps so you get big damage bonuses. At one point, I had like a 24% damage buff during my testing during a short window of like 8 to 10 seconds. And, you time that up with like your big killing sprees and stuff like that, things can feel pretty good. I also think the rework to Roll the Bones is in a much more easy to understand and process state.
I never fucking understood what this just seemed like the biggest RNG thing about this class that I never really understood. I never played it, so maybe that's why I didn't understand it. But this is good. If they're actually making it more understandable, so now you get one set or better 20% increase to gain opportunity, add a combo point generation, and then add 30% bonus of restless, and then a jackpot, add 10% increased critical strike. So that's a little bit more understandable, I guess. Roll the Bones was shit. Yeah, it was all RNG, which is a horrible way to play a class.
Servant, we have a realm
Smokio,
to destroy.
Thank you for that follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. Also, Mr. TKD saying he wants to try the new Demon Hunter spec in the beta today. That's also another good one. Like I said, I like taking beta is doing it what you want with it. H4 Sanai, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge. Yeah, it's like pick up beta and do shit you wouldn't normally do. That's what I enjoy doing in beta. So that's why I'm going to make one of these Harnier guys. But yeah, also the Void Hunter Demon Hunter spec. Why not try that if you're not planning on playing it, or if you are planning on playing it, test it out for the first time.
It simply works as a buff system instead of it just being random.
I'm
and the
impressed
buff
with your
will
ability to read
increase
that.
per roll you get 1 through 4. Not only that, it's more consistent in getting anywhere between 2 to 3 buffs, and occasionally
make a
getting
druid.
jackpot, which of
See their
course
new
will
forms.
feel great for Outlaw, which ties into that RNG every so often. I actually think Outlaw's Apex talent fits into the class theme also really well, where whenever you use Dispatch, which is your finisher, you will hoard a bullet into your sleeve, which will then build up to 6 stacks, to where then it will give you a free use of Between the Eyes without incurring the cooldown, which will allow you to get nice little back-to-back shots for a big damage increase. Overall, listen, the core gameplay of Outlaw is very similar. They just cleaned it up substantially. It's a lot less, super speed APM, more planned burst windows, and still a little bit of RNG that makes Outlaw, well, Outlaw Rogue. So overall, I'm really liking Outlaw. It's looking like it's going to be my alt main heading into midnight.
Interesting.
Now, surprisingly, when it comes to Hunter, man, this is going to sound insane based off our last couple videos, but I think Survival might be in the best spot after the recent changes.
This is
the biggest controversy over this spec right now is that they're changing the theme from what it was before into a spec that is now about bombs, shotguns, explosions, and bleed. So when it comes to the issue...
That's good, because the old theme to me just seemed like a polearm theme. Like, oh yeah, let's have really long weapons that we like to put inside of us from behind. Like, what the hell was Survival even doing? It was such a weird spec. When it came out, I remember everyone was like, whoa, melee hunter spec, kind of cool, but they never really got into it enough. I think this is a much cooler trope. Like, yeah, he's throwing traps, he's shooting his shotgun, he's, doing the close range shit. This seems like a cooler class fantasy for him.
Choose with Survival. That's probably the biggest one a lot of players are going to be having right now, which is the class theme is drastically different than before. It's also interesting to know that they can now dual wield since their abilities can work with their one-handed weapons now, which is cool. They also have a brand new ability replacing Fury of the Eagle. That's pretty much just a shotgun cone blast in front of you that you channel. It deals a lot of damage and it's a very, very cool tie to your rotation. Additionally, you still have your Tip of the Spear procs to enhance the damage of some of your abilities.
Just the tip.
You have your wildfire bombs that you throw, and then occasionally you have a Molotov cocktail that does need to get buffed because right now it feels like complete garbage to press, but it is cool class fantasy, and it also gives you charges a wildfire bomb, which is cool rotation.
This is much cooler.
I will say from a base rotational perspective, ladies and gentlemen, surprisingly, they've been cleaning up Survival a lot, and it's in a really good spot rotationally, and it feels fun to play. However, I do have a couple issues. Number one, if they're going to lean into
so is Survival like it looks almost like a mid-range at this point. Obviously, it's still got the melee with the weapons, but I don't know, maybe he's just testing it out, but the way he's sitting right now, just throwing shit everywhere, it almost looks like it's becoming more of a mid-range spec than a melee spec.
Your bomb, explosive, class theme. I still believe they need to continue to lean into it a bit more. They did update their Apex talent to make it quite interactive to where when you Raptor Strike, the next time you use it, it'll turn into an AoE that ties into some other passives. And I think it's cool, but it just doesn't really fit the class theme. I would have liked something to replace it, like maybe something to do with explosive, or maybe an interaction with wildfire bombs rather than Raptor Strike. Maybe you drop a turret that shoots a flamethrower or shoots enemies. Maybe you lay down traps.
If Survival Hunter got a turret before Tinker class ever gets added to the game, some of these gnome lovers will lose their fucking minds. You can't. Like, Blizzard cannot put turrets into the game without the Tinker class enthusiasts losing their shit about how Tinkers are still not in the game. So I don't think they'll ever put a turret unless we get Tinkers in the game.
I mean, imagine playing a spec that's all about bombs, explosives, turrets, poisons, traps. I feel like that would have been a much cooler theme. Overall, though, I think they have some work left to do with Survival, but it's absolutely a winner, and it's on its way to a really good spot in Midnight. Now, when it comes to Druid, this was a really close race between Balance and Feral, and while I think Balance did get some pretty good changes, I think more people are a lot more excited about Feral right now. I think for the longest time, Feral's had this issue where their energy regen was a bit too low, and it drags down their APM outside of their cooldown windows drastically. So when they don't have their cooldowns, they've always felt a bit stiff and boring. At this point, they've put in a lot of work to give them less downtime and better natural...
I feel like Blizzard tried to make Feral relevant in the War Within. Remember we had the patch where I think it was like the mid patch of the expansion. Could have been when we got the Isle with the anal ring. You guys remember we went and did that whole island thing, the Stormy Isle or whatever. At that point, I feel like they were trying to make Feral relevant, and it like worked for a little bit, and then they fell off again. So it's good to see that they're not forgetting about Feral, because yeah, Feral's kind of fallen out of relevancy for quite a while now. So maybe it's actually going to be the druid selection for DPS. That'll be good.
Flow of energy regeneration.
Feral peaks and mob.
They've changed a few things
Many
like
classes
cleaning up
peaked
their
and mob.
snapshotting to make it a lot more apparent when you have enhanced bleeds active. As you can see on screen here, the before and after. Not only that, you have longer duration Tiger's Fury, so it's easier.
They were good in a Mirgersil. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I forgot. Dragonflight going back that far.
To get all of your
been a
damage
while.
and everything enhanced up and running. Feral's also still rocking, of course, like that spinning plates rotation where you're upkeeping your bleeds, you're enhancing those big ferocious bites for extra AoE damage with rampant ferocity, and everything feels pretty good. Nothing's really changed in that sense. When it comes to new toys, you have a new talent called Feral Frenzy, which is an AoE that causes you to like flicker around to enemies around you and deal damage to
That's
them.
pretty cool.
It gives you full combo points, applies a little bleed, and you can deal some more damage. Also,
I like the
Blood Talons
animation.
got reworked to just give you a flat bleed damage increase, which is, I guess, okay. My only big issue with Feral is I would say their Apex talent is probably one of the worst designs in the game. At this point, it's pretty much you talent into it and you forget it and you don't even know when it's happening.
Oh,
Occasionally, you just have a chance to do an unseen sort of flicker strike to an enemy nearby. It gives you a small
That's a
buff,
limp
and
dick
it just
ability.
feels unimpactful. I would have really liked for them to update something maybe tied to their bleeds or just a really cool visual or something that I can actually see what's going on. I will say, though, honestly, I've enjoyed the spec so far. It's a very, very
Good night,
tight race
Cadence.
between Balanced Druid and Feral, but I think right now people are more excited about Feral, so it does take the cake. Moving on now, we do have to talk about the Devastation Evoker because this
Oh.
class is my...
No way it's going to be good again. There's no way. I'll say it right now, no chance. Blizzard doesn't like to make Devastation good because whenever they make it good, it becomes the meta, and they don't want it to be the meta. And the problem is it's like the only real buff class. Like, yes, there's Discipline Priest, yes, there's Enhancement Shaman, but none of them, when they are peak, really do what Devastation Evoker does. Or what am I thinking? Augmentation. Yeah, I'm thinking Augmentation. I'm sorry. I just went on a rant for no fucking reason. Yeah. Devastation Evoker, is it going to be good? Devastation had its time. Didn't it during the War Within? Wasn't there a point where it was good? I was going to go on a rant about, what's it called? Enhancement and all those things and how those are working right now because they're not right now. But Devastation Evoker, we'll see. We'll see if it actually gets back up there. That's the only one of the Drakthir classes that I feel like has had its time in the light.
ahead of most
Augmentation Evoker, never good. Blizzard doesn't like to make them good ever.
classes in the game, but as well as augmentation in terms of fun and design. This spec didn't get a massive overhaul, but it is very well polished and it's way more fun. The red side of the tree has changed and you're not trying to line up these, perfect consume flame windows anymore with Flame Shaper. Now Fire Breath has 2 charges and Consume Flame is a passive that pops every time you use Pyre on a target affected by Fire Breath. Firestorm is also a passive that triggers by casting 6 pyres, and the Flame Shaper side of the tree is just a lot more straightforward, but is more substantially effective and fun. I will say the spec that takes the cake, though, I gotta say by far is Scale Commander, man. This is peak design in World of Warcraft. You have a new talent called
That starry wing animation's really cool.
Strafing Run, which will give you 2 deep breaths in 18 seconds, so you can use them back to back. This will allow you to activate multiple talents very consistently, like summoning your squadron, proccing Melt Armor and Imminent Destruction, and then your damage will go up exponentially during this time period, which is really fun. And of course, because Scale...
I still can't believe we're never going to get like the Draconid form of these guys, like the buff boy look. I guess Blizzard's just never going to do it, because I feel like if we would have gotten it, we would have gotten it by now, and we're just not going to get buff boy dragons. We're going to have, teenagers, skinny boy, scaly boy, Moonguard style dragons. That's just what we're going to get.
Commander gets the cooldown
It's a
reduction
rant
based
that's not
off of
relevant to this video.
bombardment. You get to use Deep Breath like every 10 to 15 seconds or so it feels amazing. Man, there are
That's
a lot of
popping
things
off.
about Devastation Evoker that I have fallen in love with. I am really surprised at how well this class came out, and I think Blizzard has absolutely knocked it out of the park. Very, very, very good job so far on Devastation. I promise you, tested outcome beta, you're going to freak out by how awesome
right,
this
okay.
spec is. Moving on next to one of the biggest changes
Unholy.
in the entire alpha is the Unholy Death Knight. This is one of the hottest topics so far. Now at this point, you're a plate-wearing neck.
From what I've read, Unholy seems like it's going to play like Demonology Warlock. Like, you are summoning the fucking Scourge at this point with Unholy.
Necromancer that summons an army of minions
Yeah.
to do your bidding. And the
It
class
looks cool.
fantasy and gameplay style of this spec really, really is top-notch, guys. Some of the biggest things they prune for Unholy are that Festering Wounds is gone. Having to use the whole Death and Decay, Festering Wounds, AoE pop thing, it is gone. Scourge Strike is now a ranged ability that summons a ghoul to help you in battle. And now pretty much the core loop is now building up and exploding armies of the undead. They have an ability called Putrefy that sacrifices one of your ghouls.
So Unholy has bounced between like this whole like, actually you do a lot of poison shit, you play kind of like a rogue, you're always applying poisons and sicknesses and all that stuff, versus the actually you're a necromancer who summons ghouls upon ghouls upon ghouls. The Scourge is at your back and you're fighting with them, which I think is the cooler class fantasy for Unholy. So I'm glad to see that, yeah, Unholy's going back to the, just a necromantic summoner of the Scourge. That's the more badass class fantasy.
To make them explode, deal AoE damage, but then there are talents that will cause that explosion to then have them rise up again as a Magus of the Dead, which will come out and shoot skeletal magic to deal AoE damage.
That's cool.
Recently, they got changed on how all this stuff really interacts, especially when it comes to Putrefy. They tied it to where there's a talent with Army of the Dead that when you activate it, it will pop 4 of your ghouls for you, and there's a chance to double up on them. So there could be points where I have anywhere between
suicide
6, 8
ghouls
to
just
10
going off.
skeletal mages out, popping all at once, which is absolutely insane. You tie that with all my regular minions, my abominations, my skeletal archer. It is absolutely insane. I'm a big plate-wearing Army of the Undead Necromancer. They absolutely killed it. I will say I'm not entirely sold yet on their Apex talent. It's called Forbidden Knowledge, and it transforms your Death Coil and Epidemic into upgraded spells where when you cast Army of the Dead, it allows you to deal more damage with those abilities. At this current moment in time, it doesn't really feel like the best thing ever. I do like the idea of maybe changing up those abilities when this happens, but I don't know, it's just a little bland to me. With all that being said, though, I am a tad bit worried about them in terms of consistent DPS because they seem like a 45-second to a minute and a half, second cooldown damage window spec. And when you're lining everything up to summon those, big mountain of minions and deal a bunch of damage, it could be cool on paper, but there might be some people who are upset about that sort of thing. So it is important to keep that in mind. Moving on next, we do have to talk about the Frost Mage because I think they are absolutely
Frosty boys
in the
are
best
back
spot right now for Mage. Now, Frost has gotten pretty much a full rework into a freezing and shattering system where your abilities will apply stacks of freezing and Ice Lance will consume them to shatter and deal damage, as well as a couple other abilities which we'll talk about later. Also, icicles are passively building up on your character over time until they reach a max of 5. This will allow you to then use Glacial Spike, which will transform your next Frostbolt into Glacial Spike. Also, important to note, Icy Veins is gone and your new major cooldown is Ray of Frost, which, to be honest, a lot of players are on the fence about, including myself.
Icy Veins was always cool, though, because it felt like a nice, empowered window where you're just blasting ass, going off. So I wonder how this new proc's going to work.
I will say, hands-on using it, it doesn't feel terrible, especially when you pair it with some other talents that do multiple effects, like have it deal AoE damage. It will call down...
Why is Marksmanship now a Necromancer? What is it? What?
Some of your Apex talent, and then at the end you can call down a Comet Storm that does some good stuff.
I don't know
the visuals look nice, it's very simple, it's effective, your Apex talent feels good when you use it, so overall it's not a terrible thing. With that being said though, I've really enjoyed the Frostfire hero talent tree. It takes the cake in terms of design here. What's really neat is that the Frostfire empowerment buff will also apply to the Glacial Spike ability. So you're shooting out these big, instant cast Glacial Spikes that explode for damage. They also
cool animation.
Pyroblast. And then there are also talents within this...
Whoa, Glacial Spike followed by a Pyroblast. That's pretty badass. That is. Is that how it currently works in the game? I don't know how Frostfire... I never played Mage post-hero talents, so I don't know how that works. But if that's a new thing, that's really cool. Giant Glacial Spike plus a Pyroblast. Like, imagine dying to that in PvP. That's a pretty cool moment. Yeah, they do that now? Okay, that's a cool thing. I didn't know that.
Tree that causes your flurry to deal Frostfire damage and cleave. So combining all this stuff together, it feels really nice from a base
just giant spikes of
perspective.
Ice with
the
Pyroblast
best part about
right
it,
behind
though, is that At the end of your Ray of Frost, when you cast Comet Storm, it will also, of course, now cast a Meteor as well, and
Damn,
all
this
of
is
these
crazy
abilities will
animations.
shatter about 15 to 20 stacks of your shatter and deal a ton of AoE damage.
That looks like AoE devastation. Oh my god. Frost mages are going to be amazing at AoE probably.
And it's literally a light show of explosive Frostfire damage.
Get ready for your graphics cards and your frame rates to drop, though, because those are some wild animations going off.
I think this spec is well on its way to being one of the better DPS specs in the entirety of the game. The design is really fun. They strip down a lot of BS from the class, and the core loop is very straightforward, easy to understand, and quite frankly, better than most. Now, when it comes to Windwalker, I'm not going to sit here and say they're in the best spot ever, but since they're the only monk DPS spec, we have to talk about them. So first and foremost, Storm, Earth, and Fire got removed. It's replaced by a brand new cooldown called Zenith. This ability reduces the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury by an additional 1 second whenever you blackout kick. And then whenever you blackout kick, it also refunds you chi. Overall, I still think this ability just needs some work. It feels pretty boring, unimpactful. It just feels like an ability that gives you your energy back, all max chi, and then your cooldown's ready to go. But then when you're ready to deal more damage, you're just going about your normal rotation, and I feel like they're missing something. Not only that, Tiger's Eye Brew is back as a damage amplification for your Apex talent, where it gives you more crit chance and crit damage, as well as potentially giving you more damage during Fist of Fury, which is cool. For the most part, though, in general, they've massively reduced the button bloat when it comes to Windwalker, and they've prioritized Critical Strike and Haste as their stats, which I will say is pretty cool here. With that being said, of course, Windwalker's rotation, we all know it feels pretty smooth, but
I like seeing haste be emphasized with Windwalker Monk. I mean, to me, that's what Windwalker should be all about. It's like quick succession, like very rapid fire of abilities. Double fisting, triple fisting, very fast haste, fast abilities going off constantly. You're dipping and dashing around. I think a Windwalker Monk should almost play like a Demon Hunter does, except they're fisting things rather than, blading things. That's to me, that's the class fantasies, like just dipping and dashing around, doing all these things.
You have some problems. They removed
what did I
Last
say?
Emperor's Capacitor, which is gone. That used to feel really nice to press in AoE moments. And then now they're doubling down on the Slicing Winds ability, which isn't great. Blizzard's trying hard for some reason to get people to use this. A lot of people aren't excited, so that's a big issue. I would say the big bonuses is that they changed both of their hero talent trees substantially, and they made them a lot better and just more intuitive and easy to understand. So I would guess that's probably the big positive for Windwalker. From a bottom line perspective, I think they're heading in the right direction, more consistent outside of cooldowns, less clutter, better hero talent tree design, but they gotta clean them up overall. Something still doesn't feel right yet. We have plenty of time, and I'm hoping they continue to work on them. Next up, we are going to talk about Retribution Paladin. This one's going to be short and sweet, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course. I mean, we got to talk about Retribution Paladin. It's only like 98% of the player base at this point. So yeah, let's get into Ret Paladin and talk about how great they're going to be in this fucking light-based expansion. Light versus shadow. Here come the Ready boys out of the sun well. They're going to save us.
Truth is, this spec still feels great going into Midnight. So instead of them reinventing it, they just...
I will be honest, though. Like, even when Ret is not top DPS, everybody says the same thing about it, that it just plays so well. Like, the rotation works so well, and it feels so smooth that just people love playing them.
Cleaned it up. One of the bigger changes that Execution Sentence and
credit
Final Reckoning
to them
are
for
baked
that.
into one button now, and Crusading Strikes is now gone. Yes, now you have a filler ability that is called Templar Strikes. Nice little 1-2 punch combo, and at first you may think it's like a pain in the ass, but it's really not that bad. Not only that, Divine Hammer is now baked into Templar Hero Talent Tree, which is cool, and they're bringing a lot more notice and damage into Blade of Justice with their Apex talent being centered around Art of War procs and amplifying that greatly. There's really not much to say about Retribution Paladin,
it's already
to be
in a good
honest
spot.
with you. If you've ever played it in the War Within, it's very similar. There's some slight talent changes, a new Apex talent that's
It's fine. They don't got to change it. It's not broken. Ret's already in a great spot.
pretty much it. You have to know it's not necessarily a bad thing. I would have liked some extra spice, some extra flavor on top of it. I mean, it's a new expansion. You want to see something new and exciting, but it is what it is. I guess we'll just have to see how they continue to play it.
You know what would be cool? If Paladins get an extra Hearthstone where they can go to the Sunwell whenever they want. I mean, considering the way the cinematic worked, where they literally got summoned through the freaking Sunwell, and Blizzard already confirmed, like, those are player Paladins, those are player characters coming out to help fight. I think it'd be a cool little lore thing. I don't know. You get to go through the Sunwell whenever you want.
It's not a bad thing. I just would have liked some extra flavor. Moving on next, we do have to talk about Havoc. Now, they didn't get an overhaul like some specs, but it's definitely worth noting that they're heading in the right direction with a couple of key changes. One of the biggest ones is that Essence Break is pretty much gone in a way. It no longer buffs Blade Dance or Chaos Strike, which means we're probably saying goodbye to that thing, which a lot of people have hated for a long time. Instead, it'll just add, you know, flat Chaos damage.
I wonder how Legion Remix is going to play to the Havoc Demon Hunter population. Because it's insane right now. We just looked at the numbers. Wasn't it like 28 or 29% of the entire player base on Remix right now is playing Havoc Demon Hunter? So I wonder if we're just going to have a big... Because those characters are being converted over when Legion Remix ends, right? So those are all going to be all new capped Havoc Demon Hunters joining the player population. I wonder if people are going to carry those as their mains into the next expansion. 26%, yeah, crazy.
It's not bad. It's just clearly not going to be a...
And then you're going to have the new Demon Hunter spec too, right? So people are going to probably take their Havocs, convert them over to... They're going to change spec into the Void Demon Hunter shit. You're going to have a lot of that going on too. We're going to just have a lot of Demon Hunters running around. A lot of assless leather chaps and clothy fabrics hanging over the cocks with blades. That's going to be great.
Very big key
Bunch of shirtless elves running around.
Fel Barrage is gone. Sigil of Flame is gone. A lot of these things removed from Havoc entirely, and the entire tree has been cleaned up. One of the best changes is how
they're all going to be
Tempest
devours
now works.
too. Yep.
It's a passive. After you hit Blade Dance on 4+ targets, it will just drop Glaive Tempest automatically. You don't have to track or press another button, and this pairs really well with their Apex talent, which we'll talk about later. The defensive kit also got a glow up blur, now gives you damage reduction on a 1-minute cooldown, and it now passively activates Nether Walk for 2.5 seconds, giving you a little mini immunity, which is cool. Another big shift is the removal of Rush of Chaos. Instead, Metamorphosis is just, you know, a flat 2-minute cooldown now, so that's kind of cool. And then when it comes to AoE, Student of Suffering is now tied to I-Beam instead of Sigil of Flame, and it gives you a bonus little Mastery and Fury regen.
I feel like a lot of people are going to use beta, too, right now to test out Devour Demon Hunter. That's definitely going to happen. This video's still going. It's almost over.
So the class is still doing its whole I-Beam thing, and I think that's definitely for, you know, a good thing. And I definitely think that's a great idea and direction to go into. And I will say the strongest thing about Havoc is that their Apex talent is some of the best design in the game. It empowers your I-Beam after you use the hunt. It will also lower the cooldown of the hunt to make it a 1-minute cooldown. And then every time you fully channel an I-Beam, you can cast your next Blade Dance twice in a row, which really feels good. I would say the bottom line, guys, Havoc is finally cleaned up. Essence Break bullshit is gone. Glaive Tempest is nice little passive now. More defensive capabilities. So things are looking good. I'm just not too sure about their hero talents. I got to do some more testing personally, so we'll have to see how those go. And lastly, now we have to talk about the Shadow Priest. Now,
no, not yet,
Shadow easily had one of the biggest overhauls this entire expansion, both mechanically and thematically. Blizzard is now reworking them, doubling down on the old god vibe with the tentacle stuff, the theme of...
I think they should be. Shadow Priest should have its time in the sun in midnight. Like, we're gonna go full on voids invading, all this shit's happening. If the void is coming to Azeroth, Shadow Priests naturally should be more empowered with their abilities. Like in terms of lore. So I do hope they actually play well in this expansion. They should have their time to be great.
You know, surrendering to madness and shadowy apparitions coming out and baking that into the core kit. And it's a big part of their overall damage. I will say from a visual and fantasy update,
mobs are void resistant,
pretty
though?
much been rethemed.
Maybe.
Devouring Plague is Shadow Word Madness. Shadow Crash is replaced with Tentacle Slam. And a lot of these things that you do will summon apparitions passively, which is nice. Void Eruption in Void form, that whole contrast, it's just...
Imagine the Void mobs are actually void resistant, and then it turns out that Devour Demon Hunters are fucking useless. Like, they can't use their abilities against the Void mobs. Too bad.
This Void form now that lasts 20 seconds gives you a nice flat damage buff, and it feels pretty good. Overall, I think thematically, and a bit rotationally, they're stepping in the right direction, but if you're not interested in this old god theme and, you know, the new changes, you're not going to be happy with this spec.
What's up, Vats?
I just think when you zoom out and you see it from a bird's eye view, the spec feels, I would say, pretty gutted. You're still juggling a lot of cooldowns. Your AoE is hard capped to 6 target with Tentacle Slam, only spreading Vampiric Touch to 6 enemies. I don't think there was a reason to take Shadow Ward Pain away and just bake it into Vampiric Touch. And of course, they still have to finish fleshing out the talent tree because there's still talents missing. So I think things are not in a great spot for Shadow. I think they're working on it. They're going to take a lot more time for this spec than I thought. And I think the class is heading in the right direction, but we got to clean some shit up. The talent tree is not looking too good. I like the whole idol system. They just got to update the effects a little bit and make it better because a lot of people aren't enjoying them as of right now. Also, do not forget, ladies and gentlemen, the Comeback Kids are doing a Midnight Epic Edition free giveaway. So click the link in the description below. Follow some of our other platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and X because we are posting on there now. Greatly increase the chance you get this awesome prize from the Comeback Kids. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing or check out one of the videos you see on screen here to stay up to date on all things Warcraft. My name's Sky for the Comeback Kids. It's an absolute pleasure to make content for you all. I'll see you in the next one.
Nice overall video. Kind of plays out into, like, not necessarily what's going to pump the biggest numbers, because honestly, anyone telling you they understand the numbers right now is a fucking liar, because all that shit's about to change. We're going to get all the respecking, all this shit happening as the servers go live here in beta, and there's going to be so many changes in beta. For sure, the #1 feedback they're going to react on is class feedback, class tuning feedback going through beta. So we'll check out what the DPS numbers actually look like as we get deeper into beta. But for now, the most fun and interesting specs to play, this is a nice video to look at. Nice one from the Comeback Kids.